If you've got EGO power tools and you want a way to have some emergency power just in case, then you definitely want to grab one of these 400 watt power inverters from EGO that takes advantage of your batteries, gives you some emergency power, charge up your devices, run some small appliances, and that's what we're going to be checking out today. Hey everybody, it's Chris from Family Geekery. Today we're going to be checking out the 400 watt power inverter, this EGO Power Plus Nexus Escape. And for a long time I've had this older version, this 150 watt, and I guess it's not older, it's just a different, smaller version. And I've even tested a fake version of the inverter, I guess, a Temu special type thing. I've got a video on that, you can check that out. But this one, not only does it have 400 watts versus 150 watts, it's got a lot more features and a lot more capabilities that this one did not have. And the price difference between the two right now is not that much. Maybe $30 to $50 difference between the two depending on the sales. So I'm definitely upgrading to this 400 watt for myself. And we're going to go through all the features to see if that's something that would work for you. So before we open it up, let's just look at what the box says. And I apologize for the sticker residue. I didn't want to exactly give you guys my address. But we see it's got 400 watts continuous power. 120 volt power outlet. So it does have a inverter built in there. Obviously that's what this is. Pure sine wave, that's nice. And here's the kicker, the 100 watt USB-C power delivery input and output. And that's going to be a really neat feature that we're going to test out in this video. Shows here that it comes with the inverter, but does not come with a battery, does not come with a charger. But we weren't expecting that anyways. If we look at the back here, it has all the same things, just explained out a little bit more. 400 watts continuous power of pure sine wave, 800 watts max. So if you have some kind of a surge or something, it'll handle up to 800 watts, but just for a short time. And of course that 100 watt power delivery input and output. So enough looking at the box. It says the same thing on all four sides. Let's go ahead and open this up and check it out. Alright, so here it is. This is the inverter. Inside the box was this, and then of course the instruction manual, which I just paged through. And it wasn't until I saw that new inverter here up against the other one did I notice how large it is. And I guess that makes sense. You need room inside here for a larger inverter and larger power supply and stuff. But yeah, it was a little shocking to see how large it is, but that's good. So let's go over some of the specs here. Of course, some of them were covered on the box itself, but we've got a fast charge USB here, so that's 18 watts, and it is labeled on here. I love that it's labeled on the front. So 18 watts, it'll do up to 12 volts at 1.5 amps, or 5 volts, of course, 9 volts. We've got the USB output, the USB-C output down here, which is also 18 watts. And then we've got the big boy here, the USB-C input and output, which is 100 watts. We've got a light over here, which when you use that, it'll turn on these guys here. We'll test that out in just a second. And then of course we got the 400 watt pure sine inverter output. Looks like it's got some decent ventilation here in the front. It did say when you're using this thing, use it in a well-ventilated area. You wouldn't want to have this inside a box or something running. It would probably overheat. It does have several different protection circuits in here. It's got an overheat protection circuit. It's got an overpower protection circuit. And it also will shut off the inverter if the battery gets too low. So it won't drain the battery completely dead. Once it gets down low enough, it'll turn itself off. So let's go ahead and grab a battery and slap it on there and get this thing turned on. I'm going to be using my less than authentic battery here, which is labeled as a 12 amp hour, but after doing some tests on it on a video, I noticed that was not true. So we slap that thing all the way on there until it locks in, and then there's supposedly, yep, an eject button right here, which if you push that, this thing will come out. So putting it on there doesn't do anything yet. We've got a power button here that we're going to do a long press on, and then once you do that, it turns on. This power button here has several different color codes and several different indicators as far as if it's blinking or breathing or solid, and the book lists through all of those. But basically if it's green, it's on. If it's green and pulsing, it is delivering power to something. If it's orange, then it's charging something. So you could have power coming in here and charging the battery, which is nice. That's a feature that we didn't have before. This can actually charge this battery over USB-C power delivery. And that difference right there makes it worth whatever dollar amount is between these two, because basically you're getting a charger for yourself also. So think about that. You could have some kind of a battery bank or something that you normally charge your phones with, and it could actually be putting power into here. Now, of course, you have to know how much power you've got in that little battery bank and how quick it can deliver it. But you could actually charge this up to where you could use it coming out of the inverter. So we're going to test some of those things also. But the first thing I want to do is just plug something into it and get some power coming out of it. So I've got, let me just move this over here. I've got my trusty little dipper here, and I'm going to plug that into a power meter. So I use this just to see how much power I'm drawing, and then I'm going to plug that power meter, as long as it fits, right into the front of here, and then we'll be able to see how much power is being drawn and how much power is being delivered. So there we go. We've got this thing turned off, so let's go ahead and turn this on low. And just like that, we are drawing about 85 watts out of this battery. Of course, that's well below the 400 watts that it's capable of, and everything is working just fine. No weird noises, no weird smells, no flames coming out of it. That's always good. I imagine at some point, depending on what the load is, I'll hear some kind of a fan turn on there. Let's go ahead and turn this up to high. And there we go. I don't know if you can hear it, but a fan did turn on inside this unit here. It's not super loud, but we are drawing now 113 watts, and everything is working just fine, nice and rock solid. While that's doing that, let me go ahead and lift this thing up. We're going to take a look at the lights. And I believe it said, the instruction manual said, for the lights to work, the inverter did have to be turned on, which I'm not sure if the inverter is smart enough to know if there's no draw on it to turn itself off even though the light is on, or else that inverter is going to be drawing a little bit of battery from the battery, of course. But let's go ahead and toggle through these different lights. So a single push here turns it on, another push turns it brighter, and then the third push turns it off. Now, it said if you push and hold for about a second, then it goes into what they call the emergency status. And it's not exactly doing SOS, it's just blinking. But I guess that's better than nothing. So let's go ahead and turn that off. So we've got the thing pumping out, like I said, 112, 113 watts, no problem. And obviously how long this works for depends on what size battery you have, what the capacity of that battery is, how much you're drawing. But basically, if you've got, let's call this maybe a 4 amp hour battery, and you're drawing a little less than an amp, so 120 watts is a little less than an amp. I think we can show that on the screen here, 117 volts. Here it is, 0.96 amps. So let's say you're drawing 1 amp, and you've got a 4 amp hour battery, then you can run this thing for about 4 hours. So I can make about 4 hours worth of queso with my little dipper here off of one of these batteries. Of course, there's going to be a efficiency factor of the inverter itself, so you're not going to get that full 4 hours out of it. I would say at least 3 hours out of a 4 amp hour battery. And then if you did have a 4 amp hour battery and you're drawing the full 400 watts, then you could go about an hour. And again, this is all based on the efficiency of the inverter itself and the load that you're putting on it. So far so good. The next thing I want to test out is the USB-C power here. So let me go ahead and turn off some of this other stuff, get it disconnected, and I'll be right back. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is test the USB-C output of here. I trust that the USB-A and the USB-C 18 watt are going to work just fine. I want to test this 100 watt output here. And usually when I want to test that, I always grab this little Jackery guy here because it can both charge and discharge at 100 watts. Now the tricky part of this is both an input and an output. The ports on the Jackery are both an input and an output, and the instruction manual actually says that this light might turn green, meaning that it is charging another device, or it might turn orange, which means another device is charging it. So we're just going to roll the dice and see what happens. Now to do this, you want to make sure you have a USB-C cable that is rated at least 100 watts, and I've got one here that is listed at 100 watts. So let's go ahead and plug this in here. And then plug it in. I'm actually going to turn the inverter on first for this time. So we got the inverter turned on. I want to charge my Jackery, and based on what the screen on the Jackery tells us, of course it's negotiating right now between the two devices, and nothing is happening yet. I want to see either an input or an output on the screen, and I think the devices may just be confused. I've never seen this happen before, but neither device is doing anything. So let's go ahead and turn this off real quick. And still, here we go. So now we've got an input coming in here. And I'm not sure why that did that, but at least it's working now. So I've got input coming in here, only 40 watts so far, and it is charging the Jackery. So I was hoping to see that be at least 100 watts. Maybe I'll grab another device and test that out. But right now I'm just seeing about 30 watts coming into the Jackery. So let me grab something different real quick and see if we can see a different result. Alright, so the first thing I wanted to test was the power delivery output from this. It's rated at 100 watts. And I've plugged it into several different things. I've got a cable plugged in here, which is a 100 watt cable. And I've got a little inline watt meter here that shows me how much power delivery is being sent from the charging device to the device that's asking for it. And I've plugged it into a bunch of different things, and the most I can get out of this is about 30 or 40 watts, and I'm not sure why. I tried it on devices that can accept up to 100 watts of power delivery and 60 watts of power delivery, and I'm still seeing the same thing, so I'm not sure. I tried both with this battery here and an original EGO branded battery, and the same thing. So again, I'm not sure why, but that's not a huge problem because outputting 100 watts of power delivery isn't that hard. You can use the AC output here to use something like this Ugreen 100 watt power delivery charger and then get that out. So I'm not sure if it's just something internal to this inverter that's not working properly or if it's just something quirky about it. But like I said, I'm less worried about the power delivery output. I'm more worried about the power delivery input. So what I'm going to do now is take this same Ugreen 100 watt power delivery power supply. I'm going to plug my cable into it. So I'm outputting from here. And I'm going to be inputting into here. And I'll have this little watt meter plugged in here. So let's go ahead and plug this in. And it automatically turns it on. You can see that this is lighting up here. And let's go ahead and zoom in on the watt meter. And I tested this before. It's only showing about 9 or 10 watts. And what I found the problem to be is this off-brand battery. So for whatever reason, this off-brand battery is only charging at 9 or 10 watts. I'm sure there's some kind of circuitry inside here, or rather is missing inside here that's in a real one, and that's what makes it a little bit cheaper. So let's go ahead and turn this off, and I'll swap out this battery, and we'll try it again. Alright, so now I've got a real EGO battery in here. Let's do the same thing. 100 watts coming from the power supply, going into the USB-C input-output. It turns it on automatically. We've got the little color change here. It's not green anymore. It's supposed to go to like an orangish, showing that it's charging this battery. And let's go ahead and look at the little watt meter now. And yes, we're showing 90 watts. So we got 90 watts coming into the inverter, which is charging this battery. And that's not going to be super fast. If you think about the chargers that come with this, they're going to charge it a lot faster. But this does give you an opportunity of using something similar to like this battery bank here. And we'll try the same thing. This battery bank is supposed to be able to deliver 100 watts over USB-C. So I'm going to unplug it from the Ugreen. Now we've got nothing going in here. We're going to plug it into here, and I'm hoping that it sees the Jackery as an output. It might start to try to charge the Jackery. This is always a gamble that you've got if you've got two devices that have input and output ports at the same time. And right now, it's not doing anything. Let me just toggle this button real quick. And yes, as I feared, we've got 37 watts coming into the Jackery from that battery. And again, this is one of the hard parts of having these input-output ports. Sometimes I like a battery like this that has a dedicated output-only port. And sometimes it's just unplugging and plugging back in. We'll get it to toggle. And nope, it's charging again. So let's try that one more time. And it's charging again. So that's not a good example, but I've got some other chargers that are just an output port, and that would be better. So I'm going to plug it right back into the U-green again and get some juice going back in here. It's already climbing 30, 40, 60, 80, and then 90 watts. So the input I'm happy with, being able to get 100 watts in. That's of course assuming that you have a 100 watt or more device that can charge, but I'm not really sure why this power delivery output was never giving me any more than 30 or 40 watts. Alright, so I set up one more thing here just to test something, and it's making a little bit more sense. Here is the inverter going through this power meter plugged into this U-green, which is this guy right here, and then I'm plugging the USB-C cable out of the U-green into my Jackery, hoping to get 100 watts in, and I'm only getting 20 to 30 watts out of here. And you can see that's confirmed here. It's nothing wrong with the charger. This is only getting 20 to 30 watts coming out of the inverter. So I'm wondering if this battery might be a little bit lower than I thought. So I'm going to go take this battery, give it a full charge, and then come back here and I'll test this again. And if this gets up to 100 watts, then I'll test the USB-C output. So it might have been the problem all along. I'll be right back with a fully charged battery. Alright, so I'm back with a full battery, and I'm hopeful this time that it will work. So let's go ahead and turn this on here. So as a reminder, we've got the U-green 100 watt power delivery charger plugged into here. We're about to plug this guy into the Jackery. Let's see how much power we draw from the inverter. And we are climbing up higher than we did before, but still only about 40 watts or so. And we're getting about 30 watts into the Jackery. So I'm really not sure what's going on, why this power delivery charger isn't getting, the full 100 watts out of it. But let's go ahead and unplug the AC side of it. So instead, let's plug in the little dipper again. Get that right into the front here. And turn it on low. See if we can get that 60 or so watts. Yep, 85 watts. And turn it on high. And the fan's kicking on, so it's definitely putting out plenty of power. It's putting out 100 watts. Turn that back off. Let's plug in the U-green again. And let's plug in the USB-C to it. And we are only still getting about 40 watts. Now I've got this other power bank here which is able to charge at 100 watts. So let's go ahead and unplug that Jackery and plug this guy in. And here we go, or at least we're getting up to 60 something watts. And on the screen it shows about 53 watts in, and it's seems to be dropping. 49, 48. So it started off pretty high and it's dropping down. So I honestly don't know why the little dipper can pull the full amount of power from here, but a USB-C charger doesn't seem to. Alright, so I thought this was going to be a real simple review. At least we got through all the specs of what it's supposed to do. We've got a good use case for some device that draws plenty of power like this little dipper. It delivered it just fine. But when we started to try to get crafty and do a bunch of things with the power delivery input and output, things just kind of went weird. So like I said, I'm not sure why. But I guess if you've got a use case for this, the best thing you can do is test it out, see how it works. You might want to have one of these handy. I get these things on Amazon pretty cheap. I got, I think, a 2-pack for 20 bucks or so. And I use those anytime I'm testing things out like this, just to see how much power is being delivered from one device to another. But test it out on your use case. It may work completely fine, but like I said, it worked fine for some things and other things were a little weird. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. If you did, I appreciate a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below if you have any questions. Just drop them down there. I'll be happy to answer anything I can. If you've got some use cases that you've used this for and it worked out great, let me know that down in your comments also. But that's going to wrap it up. I appreciate you as always for watching, and until next time, peace out and geek out.